Alright, hey guys, this is Miss Gallant again for part 2 of the practice test. Okay, so we're just going to jump right back in. So number 9, the formula for velocity is velocity equals the initial velocity plus acceleration times time. To represent this formula, we use this literal equation. V equals V sub 0 plus AT. And we want to solve for t. So anytime you have a literal equation or an equation with multiple variables, you have to know what you're solving for. It will tell you what variable to solve for. So this is the variable we want by itself. So we're going to have v equals v sub 0 plus at. And I want t by itself. So I have to remove all the other variables on the same side that t is. I have to get rid of everything else. The easiest thing to get rid of, I don't know if you remember or have heard my present explanation, but think about if you have a gift and someone who loves you and cares about you has wrapped it all nice and pretty, has put a big old bow on it, there's tons of tissue paper inside that box. You can't just go in and grab and phase out that present. You have to undo the bow and then take off the wrapping paper and then open the box and then take out all the tissue paper, and then you can get to your present. So you start on the outside and work your way into your present. So think about it this way. T is my present, and everything on this side of the equation is all the wrapping paper and the bow and all that junk that you have to get rid of to get to T. So you're going to start on the outside and work your way in. So I have a lot of people say, well, Miss Gallant, this V is technically the furthest thing away from your T, but it's already on the opposite side. We're only talking about the things that are on the same side. So we're going to call this our trash pile. As you throw your wrapping paper and stuff off, throw everything over into the trash. So we're going to look for the furthest thing away from T that is still on this side of the equation, and that would be V sub 0. So to cancel this out, this is a positive V, so we're going to cancel it out with a negative V. So we're going to subtract. Now you're not actually putting in the calculator and subtracting, you're just symbolically subtracting. So this and this cancel, and you're left with V minus V sub 0 equals, and then on this side, these have canceled, and you're just left with this AT. Okay, so again, I want T by itself. So now I have to get rid of A. This is A times T. So to undo multiplication, you divide. So I'm going to divide both sides by A. A and A cancel, and this is all I'm left with. Again, it's a symbolic division. It's not a punch it into the calculator. So really and truly, if you think about it, you're not doing any calculating here. You're not doing any math. You are straight up just simplifying and moving things over and writing. So we have V minus V0 over A equals T. And this is our final answer, guys. That's all we're doing. We're just shifting letters around. We're not doing any calculating. It's really not doing any hard math. We're just symbolically moving letters over. This is the same as if we were solving an equation that had numbers, but you don't have to punch anything in the calculator. You don't actually have to do any math. You're just writing it. Okay. Sorry guys, filming these videos and talking nonstop, in class, if you stop and you take questions and whatnot, doing these videos, it feels weird to have any silence, so you talk and talk and talk, and it kind of wears your throat out. So if I sound funny, or if you hear me coughing a lot, that's what's going on. So, yeah. Okay. Whew. Alright, number 10. Jalen solved the equation 2 times 2x minus 1 plus 2x equals 50. So it's right here. Solved it right here. Where x represents the number of dollars he has. Interpret his solution. So you're not doing any math here. You are interpreting again. So x represents the number of dollars. X equals 8. What does x equals 8 mean? That means that Jalen has 8 And you're done. Man, a lot of people miss this on the test, and I think it's just not reading, because this should be, I don't like to say this should be the easiest problem on the test, but really this wasn't a math question, this was a reading question. So what does X represent? X represents dollars, so if X is 8, he has $8. Okay, number 11. Now we're getting into the math part. Number 11, consider Jalen's work from item 10. Did Jalen perform all the steps correctly? If not, identify the error, the step, and the justification for it as a property. So let's just look through and see if there are any errors, because there may not be any. And I think I found that like real quick. So let's see. So the very first thing Jalen would do is distribute this 2 to 2x and -1. And when he did that, he gets a 4x plus 2. But what you should get is a 4x minus 2, because 2 times -1 is -2, not positive 2. So we're going to write this. We're going to say step 2. Jalen did not distribute properly. 2 times -1 equals -2, not positive 2. And then it says justification as a property. So what property would justify this step? The distributive property. Okay, so I'm going to just double check these. And I believe everything else is correct except for that very first. Y'all, I hate our end of the day bell so much. That scares the mess out of me every day. Okay, so sorry about that. Man, all right, everything else in this problem is correct. The only thing that was messed up is that one distribution. Had he made this a -2, it would have changed our answer completely, but every step after that is correct, considering that this is incorrect. So everything else he has done correctly. Okay. All right, so let's look at the next question. He wrote his justifications out for each step. Man, I hate that bell. He wrote his justifications out for each step. So we just need to, he says he made one error. I believe on the next page it tells us to identify the error and what step it was in. So let's just double check. So your first should always be given. Like, you don't do anything with that first step. That is the equation as it's given to you. So the next thing he did was distributive property. I agree with that. Next thing is commutative property of addition. Commutative property is where you take two numbers and switch their order. Because remember, like 2 plus 1 is the same thing as 1 plus 2. So it doesn't matter which order your numbers are in. That's what the commutative property is. Next step, combine like terms. I agree. 4x and 2x to get to 6x is combining like terms. Then we subtract -2 from each side. That is subtraction property of equality. And then we do okay, so we subtract from both sides. All right, so we said combine like terms. I agree with that. Subtraction property of equality. We were subtracting a -2 from each side. And then combining like terms, so we combine this and combine this to get 48, so I agree. And then we get here, multiplication property of equality. But what it's showing that we're doing is it shows that we are dividing each side by 6. So if we're dividing, we're not multiplying. So number 7, this would be our error. Right here we are dividing. So if we turn the page, number 12 says identify Jalen's error. Identify which property or explanation could correct it. So in step 7, we should use the division property of equality, not multiplication. Okay. All right, number 13. The expression 12x plus 16 represents the total cost of a bicycle rental. When Danny rents a bike for 10 hours, the total cost of his rental is $136. What does the variable x represent? So, we have 12x plus 16, and then when we rent for 10 hours, we get 136. So, if this is the total cost, and it's equal to 136, we should be good here. So, it says when we rent a bike for 10 hours, this is the cost. So, what does x represent? Well, x would be that 10 hours that we're plugging in. So, x is the hours. So, if we want to interpret this whole equation or this whole expression, x would be my number of hours. 12, if you think about it, if x is my number of hours, 12 would have to be how much it cost me each hour. So this is my cost per hour. So if I rent the bike for 10 hours, it's cost me $12 an hour for 10 hours. So I do 12 times 10, that give me 120. I don't know why that took me so long. She gave me 120 hours. And then I have this extra 16. So what could that 16 be? So if you think about, a couple of companies will charge you a flat fee, like in case you decide to rent it and then like 10 minutes later change your mind. They don't lose out on any money. So they charge a flat fee. So this would probably be some sort of flat fee. So this would be the cost per hour. This would be a flat fee. And the X would be the number of hours that I would be renting that bike. And then if I were to plug 10 in, it should make sense that this equals 136. Okay. So number 14. Solve this equation and show that you checked your answer. Remember what I said in the previous video, or the previous section? I don't know if I'm going to edit these all together or not. I think I'm going to keep them separate. The previous video, I said that there should almost always be a way to check that your answer makes sense. So we will do that here. So we're going to just solve this at first. So we have 2x plus 6 equals negative 5x plus 55. All right, so first thing I'm thinking is that I don't want two sets of x's, because when I try to get x by itself, if I have an x on the left and on the right side, it's not going to make sense. So let's add 5x to each side. Could I subtract two x's? Sure, but then we'd have like a negative number, and I mean, you can work with negative numbers. If you like negative numbers, more power to you. There are sometimes I choose to have negative numbers, but y'all know I'm a math nerd, and I know most of y'all are not. So let's just keep it simple. All right, so the 5x's cancel. We bring down the 55. 2x and 5x makes a 7. Bring down our 6, and we're down to 7x plus 6 equals 55. So again, remember your present. You're trying to get x by itself. We have to get rid of everything else. The furthest thing away from x is the 6. So let's subtract 6 from each side. And we are down to 7x equals, these cancel, 55 minus 6 should be 49. And we're going to divide both sides by 7. And x equals 7. Alright. So then it says, show that you checked your answer. So we're going to go back to the original equation and then plug in 7 for the x. And I ran out of room, and I apologize for that. It is a hot mess. 2 and 7 is 14, plus 6 equals, 5 times 7 is 35, but that's a negative 5, so let's make that negative 35, plus 55. Okay, 14 plus 6 is 20. 55 minus 35 is also 20. So this is a true statement, which means this is my solution. Okay. All right, so there we go. We've got that checked. Number 15. All right, Sarah pays $3.70 for 5 pounds of pears and 2 pounds of grapes. 1 pound of grapes costs 80 cents more than 1 pound of pears. So we're going to use the variable P, and P is going to be the price per pound of pears. So P is the price of some pears. All right, so we're going to write an equation for the situation. So I typically don't do this the same way as most people. Let's look at this as, let's look at the grapes for a second. 1 pound of grapes is 80 cents more than 1 pound of pears. So to get my grapes, I'm going to take my pears and add 80 cents to them. So 1 pound of grapes is 80 cents more than a pound of pears. All right. So I do know that I'm going to have 5 pounds of pears plus 2 pounds of grapes. So normally, when you get into some higher level math, you can use 2 variables. We would do P and G for pears and grapes. But we can't solve anything with 2 variables right now. So instead of me writing 2G for 2 grapes, I'm going to look at my expression for grapes in terms of pears. So we're going to do 2 times P plus 0.80. Or P plus 80 cents. So 5 pounds of pears plus 2 pounds of grapes, which are just 80 cents more than a pound of pears. She paid a total of $3.70 for all this. So this would be my equation. Okay, so now I need to figure out how much a pound of pears costs and how much a pound of grapes costs. Man, I hate when you have like 2 words in the same sentence that have the same starting letter, like pounds of pears and price, and yeah, so if I trip myself up, I apologize. Okay, so to start solving this, first thing I would do is distribute that 2. So a 5P plus 2P plus 2 times 80 cents would be $1.60 equals $3.70. All right, let's condense some of this. Let's combine like terms and get 7P plus 160 equals 370. So minus 160 should have 7P equals, let's get that calculator out, although I think I can do that one in my head. Sometimes I like to double check because I hate to tell people wrong. Okay, so 7P is equal to 210. Divide both sides by 7. P equals, is it 30 cents? It is 30 cents. Okay, so I can't just leave it as P equals 0.30 because we want to make sure we know how much each thing costs. So our pears cost 30 cents. So 30 cents for pears. I guess I didn't need to write P and pears, but you know. And then let's look for G for our pound of grapes. So we know that 1 pound of grapes costs 80 cents more. So I'm just going to add 80 cents to that. And that should give me $1.10 per pound of grapes. Okay. All right, so that should be it for 15. We have that a pound of pears costs 30 cents, a pound of grapes costs $1.10, and we also wrote a pretty darn good equation for it. Okay, number 16, we're going to solve this equation and justify each step with a property. This is where people should be really grateful that this is a multiple choice question, because that way you don't have to sit there and write each property. Whoop, whoop. So I'm going to do it here, but just saying, that's the beauty of multiple choice. Okay, so I'm just going to rewrite it at first. All right, so our very first thing that we're going to write is that this is given to us. This is our original equation. It's given to us. You didn't do anything here. You just copied that. Now, I mean, that may be the case for the rest of this problem, but right here, like, even me, I'm just copying this. So let's start trying to simplify some of this. So I have negative 3x plus 35. And then on this side, I can combine these. And this is going to give me negative 3x plus 32. And we're just going to call that combining like terms. All right, and that is combining like terms. Let me write that down. Okie dokie. So, let's see. I could do a few things right here, but I want you to notice something really quickly. I have negative 3x plus 35 is the same thing as negative 3x plus 32. If I look, the number in front of x is the same on both of these, but so my coefficients are the same, but my constant terms are completely different. So this would be the equivalent of me saying that John and Mary both have X dollars in their pocket. I triple it, and then I make it negative. That doesn't really make sense, but let's just, for the sake of this, triple it, make it negative. They should still have the same amount of money in their pockets. But if I give John $35 and Mary $32, doesn't matter what they started with, they will no longer have the same amount of money because I'm adding something different to each of them. So they no longer have the same amount. So, because of this, I don't know why I'm Xing this, because of this, there is not going to be a solution to this problem. If you want to take this a step further, let's look at this. So I can do negative 3x plus 35 equals negative 3x plus 32. So one of the other things you could do, if this didn't stick out to you, let's add 3x to each side to cancel out the 3x's over here and bring everything over to the left. This cancels, but then it cancels over here too, and you're just left with 35 equals 32, which is not true under any circumstances. So again, no solution. Yay! Don't you love the problems that have no solution? Don't you just love it? There's also infinite solutions. Remember, if it's infinite solutions, this would have been like negative 3x plus 35 equals negative 3x plus 35. It would have been the same on either end. So don't get those two confused. Make sure you know the difference between no solution and infinite solutions. All right, number 17. We are solving for A. It's another literal equation. So again, you are just writing the math. You're not actually doing much math. So we'll get this rewritten. And at this point, you can do one of two things with this. I know most of us, oh look, number outside parentheses, let's do distributive property. You are totally welcome to do that. Something else you can do that may be a little easier, or maybe less steps, I'm not 100% sure how you feel about this, but something else you could do, this is 16 times whatever in parentheses. So to cancel that, you could do division here, and that's what I'm going to do. You could do distributive property, you end up with the same answer, it might be written a little differently, but it just kind of depends on what floats your boat. So I have, and you're going to end up dividing anyway. I'm going to quit talking because I'm just going to confuse some people, so I'm going to stop there. So I'm going to cancel with division here, and I'm just left with A plus B equals C over 16. All right, again, I want A by itself, so let's subtract B. And this cancels, and you have A equals, let me scoop this up so you can see, A equals C divided by 16 minus B. Again, it's all symbolic. You're not doing any physical dividing or multiplying. You're just doing some symbolic, multiplying, dividing, adding, subtracting. Just writing that you did it. You're not actually doing it. Okay, so let's see. That is question 17. All right, so the next section starts with inequality. So I'm going to stop the video here. This is a 24-minute video. I'm going to stop it here. If it seems kind of choppy, I did get interrupted a few times, so I'd like to apologize for that if this video kind of comes out weird because of that. I tried to pause it and go take care of stuff and then come back. So if it's a little weird, I do apologize for that. If you have any questions, feel free to email me or Miss Means, depending on which one of you or what class you're in. And yeah, so let's stop this here, and I'll start the next video soon, and they will all be up at the same time. So thank you so much.